Funding for the Stoller Report is made possible by a grant from the First American Title Insurance Company of New York. The First American Corporation is the nation's leading diversified provider of business information products and services that impact the major events of people's lives.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller. I'm the host of the Stoller Report, Real Estate Trends in the Tri-State Area. The topic of today's program is the state of Lower Manhattan 3 years after 9/11. My guests today include Kent Swig, President of Swig Burris Equities, Joseph Moynihan, President and CEO of the Moynihan Group, Patrick Crandall, Vice President and Regional Manager of Fremont Investment and Loan, Tom Alganian, President of Rockrose Development Corp., Rob Verone, Managing Director of Wachovia Securities, and last but not least, the man who arrived a little late prior to the show, but he's here, Steve Witkoff, Chairman and CEO of the Witkoff Group. Thank you all for being here today. Each one of you has been very active in Lower Manhattan. Kent Swig, in the last 9 months, has bought three office buildings. Mm-hmm. Joe Moynihan owns Lower Manhattan. Joe Moynihan owns 4 million square feet. He is the largest single owner of an individual. He's not Brookfield Development. He's the largest non-public company of property in Lower Manhattan. Pat Crandall made the investment on 150 Nassau Street, making an investment on 29 John Street, making an investment as a lender on 15 Broad Street. So Pat Crandall has been an active lender over there. Tom Alganian, maybe we'll call him, I don't want to say the senior citizen of the area, but the man who's been involved for 20 years in Lower Manhattan, who's bought 129 John Street, who's owned 45 Wall Street, who's building a 60-story building at 2 Gold Street. Then we have next to him the other lender over here, the man who, Pat takes some deals at a certain level. But Verone over here from Wachovia, you're like the giant, you're like the gorilla, the big gorilla. Mr. Verone, not personally, we like you, okay?
I'm working on the waist.
No, I know. But Mr. Verone over here, Mr. Moynihan buys 180 Maiden Lane, you lend him money. Mr. Swig buys 80 Broad Street, you lend him money. Mr. Moynihan's buying another building we find out prior to the show, you're going to lend him money. So you've been very interested. And last but not least, you have Mr. Witkoff. Mr. Witkoff has been buying, Mr. Selling. He owns a small little property for my guests and for my audience, something called the Woolworth Building. He's in contract for 55 Wall Street, where the Regent Hotel is, 20 Exchange Street. So you've been in there, and you've bought and sold. My question is, why do you like Lower Manhattan? Isn't Lower Manhattan separated? Isn't it a separate area? It's not Midtown. Why have you been such an active player in office buildings for Lower Manhattan?
For me, it is a separate area completely. I agree. It's the 3rd largest office concentration in the United States, behind Chicago and Midtown Manhattan. So you're in the 3rd largest city in the U.S. It's not such a small place.
But why are so many other people not that interested? I mean, with the exception, Joe bought this class. I mean, this probably one of the class buildings, 180 Maiden Lane, that he closed a couple of months ago that Rob lent. Why have you been buying these buildings that one would consider a B building? I mean, I don't consider them B buildings, but
They exactly are. What I'm trying to do is I gain comfort in the fact that I can buy a building that seems to be a good price and is multi-tenanted, so if 1 or 2 tenants move out.
Let's get to the point of a good price.
Okay.
Let's get to the good point of a good price. Joseph Moynihan, 1994, what's a good price? Buys 90 John Street and 100 John Street for a price of $15 a square foot.
That's right.
Tom Alganian buys 127 John Street for $6 a foot. Joseph, have you gone crazy? You just closed on 180 Maiden Lane for what, $365 a foot?
Almost. Almost.
Well, there was a 6.
Why'd you lend them that
There was a
much
6
money?
in it. It's okay. It's just a little off.
I mean, I think the deal supported it very easily. I mean, it was good value. Joe put down a lot of equity. We priced the debt and structured the debt accordingly. I mean, I think it makes sense. And we're bullish on downtown Manhattan, as everyone else here is.
I mean, Steve, you've been so involved with downtown for over the years. 1999, you bought the Woolworth building. You've owned so many other properties. You went to contract. What do you see happening in downtown these days?
I think it's a very special place. We were buying downtown when Tom and Joe were buying downtown. When you were buying John Street, Joe, we were buying 10 Hanover at $12 a square foot. Right. 33 Maiden Lane, you know, where IBM was at $28 a square foot. That was a new construction building. We actually bought the debt from Mitsubishi Bank and Trust. $200 million mortgage, Michael, for $29 million. So
are we at a peak?
No.
We're not.
We are not at the peak. Simply because the improvements that are all planned and penciled out for downtown Manhattan, especially the financial and the Wall Street area, with the $20 billion expenditure that the government, the president have approved, and it's on the way, and it's some of it being spent already, will make downtown one of the best parts of New York. And the money will go towards creating jobs, creating construction, making the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week community, as well as the new transportation hubs that are talking about direct lines to Kennedy Airport and the main central terminal to New Jersey. All of that is about to happen and started happening. Then
can we absorb we have X space, and I think Kent, in a prior show and also during a number of discussions with me, stated that at least 65 buildings, it was once 58, there were about 65 buildings in the last 12 years that have been converted from Class B and Class C and Class D office space to residential, representing well over 10 million square feet.
It's like 30, right now I think it's 34 buildings and about 10.1 million feet in the past 4 years.
Right, but in total from the Alliance, they did a study, it's over 65 buildings over the period of time. So that space left the marketplace. Right now, you still have a vacancy factor in downtown of probably 15%? 13.5%.
yes.
You have a new Freedom Tower being built. You have this new Goldman Sachs on Battery Park City, the site over there. That's going to be putting on additional space.
Right.
Can downtown absorb it? Can Manhattan absorb this space? Steve?
I am enormously bullish, Michael, on downtown.
Everyone knows that over the period of time, we've always been bullish. The show is bullish. All I'm trying to do is, some interaction of a question.
You know, first of all, there's been tremendous absorption. Do you know the common refrain a year ago was that when all the federal tax benefits for renters downtown burned off, that everybody would move from downtown and there'd be an exodus to Midtown. They haven't moved.
Steve, I don't want to interrupt, but this has happened. A year ago, October, Tom Alganian is on the show with a different haircut at that time. And
looks pretty good to me, and I see him a lot at the golf course.
And Tom is on the show, and what Steve was alluding that you could go downtown, and you were able to move downtown to an apartment, move into your building, or a variety of the residential towers, because both of you have office and residential, and you were able to get a $500 a month abatement. So this was, besides being a low-cost alternative, you were able to get $500. Rents were cheaper. So effectively, you could live in downtown for $800, $900 a month cheaper. And I said to Tom, Tom, it ended on August 31st of 03.
May 29.
Okay, but it ended. And I said, Tom, what's going to happen when some of these end? And Tom said, Mike, I really don't know. And prior to the show, I asked the same question. And Tom said, and I asked Joe, and they both said to me, people said they're continuing. They're renting, they're not leaving, they're paying the $500.
One thing you have to realize, I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for almost 10 years. Just moved back
You
a
know,
year ago.
we're in the, you know, I know
there's-
the show goes to
There
Charlotte,
is
but you know, we're in the
in
tri-state
Wachovia
area.
and Charlotte, there is not one 21 to 30-year-old single, probably married couple or single person who would not leave Charlotte, North Carolina to want to get transferred up to Wachovia up here. I mean, literally, if you had a chance, everyone, I'm not going to say everyone, a high percentage of people want to be in New York City. That's where they want to.
The experience
and
of
Lower
New York.
Manhattan's a little cheaper than the Upper East Side, and they
But
can,
you know what
I-
is, you know, let's
Used to be.
let's get to residential
be.
in Lower Manhattan, because prior to the show, Tom is building 2 Gold Street, which is a 60 stories, over 624 units, something like that.
650.
650, beautiful tower, right across the street from Glenwood Management's recent building at 10 Liberty Place. I mean, you're not taking buildings. This is a ground-up property, and you're projecting rents of $40 a foot. For my audience, $40 a foot. If it's a 600 square foot apartment, that's 40 times 600 is 24,000. It's $2,000 a month. So for $2,000 a month, you're able to get a nice, brand new, with top amenities in a Rock Rose building. How much would that apartment cost in Midtown? In your buildings?
Probably 10 or 15% more.
At least.
I would
But-
say it would
but-
cost 30% more.
Yeah,
I would say
probably like
Midtown rents begin with a
2,500,
5, and Tom can rent with a 4.
But,
And I would
Well,
bet
look,
you
the only reason we can do this is because of Liberty bonds.
right.
So what you're saying also is, as Steve alluded before, saying that, you know, these concessions, this $500 a month, help get tenants in over there.
Yeah.
The other reason,
But I got to, if you look at the far west side, you know, in the 42nd Street area, the 40th Street area, 10th, 11th Avenue, even in the 9th Avenue, the rents are not all that different from downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, it's
right
comparable
now.
market.
So if you take a building like Thomas' building, you take Litwin's building, and you put these buildings in the, you know, area of Midtown West, whatever you want to call it, but the 8th Avenue and further west, they're the same buildings, and they're going to get rents that are very comparable. In fact, I think downtown probably is equal to or superior in the rents there. So there is a huge demand for product downtown, and people want to live there. And you know, you can't compare it necessarily to the Upper West Side and the Upper East Side, but you can kind of compare it to some of the other areas that are where the development is. And it is as competitive as anywhere else in terms of getting high rents.
but let's talk about Liberty bonds. I mean, Liberty, there was a total of $1.6 billion in Liberty bonds available for residential in downtown. And under the 2 different programs, the city program, New York City Housing Development Corporation, you were able to build the Liberty bonds, and you were able to pay a 3% fee, which was to be used for affordable housing somewhere else in the city. So you were able to get market rent. Under the state program, you were able to, you would have to give 5%, but the rents were not, they were 150% of the average median income.
Correct.
If the Liberty bonds were not available, could have you built 62 Gold Street?
It's 2 Gold Street.
2 Gold Street, I'm sorry.
And probably we couldn't afford it at $40 a foot. But the Liberty bonds makes it work out for us.
Yeah.
Look, my own prediction is I think there's going to be a huge, there's a lot of production downtown, a lot of rental production due to the Liberty bonds, and for a while we will have an oversupply. But in the long term, it'll be good for everyone, because really the problem with downtown is not enough residents. And as we have more residents, then the real liability of living downtown is the shopping and the restaurants and the nightclub.
When did you do the first conversion of a residential?
Well, it's 45 Wall. We did it in 96.
96, Joe?
100 John, 96.
Now, prior to 1980, there were 791 people. That was the total residents
Right.
in Lower Manhattan.
Yes.
And today, probably
I think
over 15,000?
No, more.
I think it's like 30,000.
30,000.
30,000.
Yeah.
And they're predicting another 15,000 from
The next 3 years.
with all the production.
Right.
I mean, you asked the two things that what attracted me, or maybe a lot of others, to downtown. 2 big things are going on downtown, huge. One, obviously, is the residential population. And that is going to create a completely different atmosphere.
It's going to help the office people a lot.
It's already created a different atmosphere. It's just hasn't been recognized by all the New Yorkers yet. The second thing, which Joe was talking about, is the transportation. Transportation was always a difficult area, a difficult subject.
I mean,
for
the
downtown.
Lexington Avenue line is excellent.
But you look at it, but you look right now,
impact.
Michael, you've got 4 major transportation hubs with money funded, with plans being developed and ready to go. Two ferry terminals, one of which is almost finished. The path that Santiago Calastrava's designed, and then the Fulton Street Station, which is the Grand Central Hub. 3 of which are connected underground to one another. Each one of those, by itself, are some of the largest projects for transportation in the United States. All 4 are downtown Manhattan. So you have a population of 30,000 plus growing, and a transportation hub system, network, that's second to none anywhere, literally, in the country.
And then you're going to get the air train down there, Ken.
And all the rest
Right,
is extra.
eventually the air-
But even, it's all extra. What's going on right now, it's
let's-
just going to revolutionize downtown.
Here's our southerner, our southern lender. He was in
From New Jersey.
No, southern Jersey, but he
exactly
spent
right.
10 years in North Carolina. Here we have our Californian, our lender who spent most of his life in California. When Fremont came into New York for some of the initial deals, and you were underwriting the loans at that time, you did 150 Nassau Street. Now, 150 Nassau Street was a different type of conversion, because it was a conversion right near Pace University, right near the subway, and also with a Brooklyn Bridge view. How would a company who's basically, I don't want to say, you're not a conventional lender, what would you call Fremont?
Well, we're a bridge and a value creation lender.
Value creation. How'd Fremont make a decision? No, you're going to say hard money? No, hard money is a different term. Hard money is somebody who charges a lot. Hey, it's a risk reward, and that's what we're talking about, value creation. How'd Fremont make a decision to do 150 Nassau?
Well, I think at the time, this was prior to 9/11. We just liked the economics of the transaction, and it was a different deal than what it ultimately evolved to be, because originally it was going to be part corporate apartments and part for sale condominiums. At the time, prior to 9/11, there was huge demand for corporate apartments in the Wall Street area. After 9/11, of course, that changed pretty dramatically. So we were able to hang in with our borrower and sort of adapt and ultimately sell out the project. And towards the end of the sellout, he did phenomenally well at that project.
But you've also made another. I mean, very interesting. And I think, were you ever interested in 15 Broad?
Yes. In fact, I was the underbidder.
No, originally.
Yeah.
So, for our audience, 15 Broad is what was the J.P. Morgan Chase headquarters, right across the street from the New York Stock Exchange. Which, when you go down today, you see this very nice building, but you see the barriers with the dogs and everything over there, and then you say, one of my guests who sat in your seat, our prior show, Shia Baumelgreen, who bought this building, and he said to me even last week, he said, when I spent $100 a foot for this magnificent structure, I said, I didn't know if I could make the numbers. Now, this is not your business. You don't lend on residential in that type, in a conversion. I mean, that's...
Yes, he does. He was Wachovia. In fact, Robert was the first residential lender that we did business with in it had to be either 1998 or 1999, where he came down and he gave me a loan, a major loan. At that time, 50 million was
Where?
more than 500 million today.
No, but
at,
where?
At 100 John Street.
90 and 100, yeah.
That's right.
So but you had already converted 90.
Yeah, he.
No.
He
No,
did.
what-
He did.
no.
He did. I wasn't complete. He gave me a loan almost in the middle of construction, and he stayed all along with me, and a lot of promises were made, and a lot of promises were made good by him lending me. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, the name of the bank was not Wachovia then.
It was First Union.
It was First Union. And, you said, why are you guys active downtown? What is downtown that makes it interesting for you? I got to tell you, Mike, one thing that's very, very important, and I think it's a good thing to touch upon, is that all of us were involved in downtown before 9/11. And all of us had good, great projects, and we all worked very hard in downtown. You lent, we built, we bought, we traded, we did whatever we had. And I think the sentiment of going through 9/11 and going from the height that was in year 2000 to the low that it was in '01 and part of '02, and today that we see the flower blossoming again in '03 and '04, with the future and the promises that are made by local and federal government to spend money, time, and effort to bring the downtown back to life, it is what keeps us indirectly pushed towards downtown. And every time we talk midtown or uptown, I'll never lose my attention for downtown, because it is a city within a city that offers everything without the hustle bustle of the Times Square kind of action. And people are very, very happy. You know, there's one thing. There was a consensus done by the Downtown Alliance, who does a lot for downtown, and 75% of the people that live downtown, they voted that they will stay downtown past 5 years from today. That's
what are we missing? What are we missing to retain these people? Kent was saying the Upper East Side, people stay in the Upper East Side.
A lot of things. We're missing a lot of things.
What are we missing? I mean, Steve, you've been downtown. You're talking about the Woolworth building, and you bought in 1999. You took this property. At that time, a lot of people felt that you were going to convert the entire structure to residential.
Never.
Right now, you signed a lease last year with NYU for a substantial portion for their 15-year lease, so they have a large portion. And you still have a beautiful tower over there.
We're going to convert the tower to condominiums. But let me just sort of pick up on what Joe was saying, Mike. I was on top of the heap on 9/11, literally in the rescue effort till 6 in the morning with two friends of mine who were former NYPD detectives. And we actually kept the Woolworth building open we were one of the only buildings that was open in those days. All the other buildings were down, and we brought portable generators, and that building operated. We were sleeping the ESU cops there in the lobby. And so, I can remember feeling that maybe downtown was going to be a really rough situation for a long time, and feeling really nervous. I had real live holdings down there, 20 Exchange, 125 Broad, 10 Hanover, which I'm now converting, the Woolworth building, and I was pretty nervous about that. But I have sat at the real estate board. I've sat next to Tom at the real estate board, and I have never seen a convergence of federal and state officials come together to inject money into downtown. It is so proactive. Peter Calico sits there. He talks proactively and affirmatively about how he's going to move heaven and earth to shove money into mass transit projects downtown. Charlie Gargano comes in. He talks about how he's going to get the state to be proactive. Dan Doctoroff comes in. He talks about being involved too. Shelley Silver, who's the Speaker of the Assembly, his number one focus is downtown Manhattan. I mean, he fought the battle.
That's his area.
Fought the battle on REIT benefits so that you wouldn't see downtown businesses moving to outside, and single-handedly, in my opinion, helped to change that legislation. So it's just an amazing thing to see all these people coming together. I was with Madeline Wills the other day, who's very, very involved in Community Board 1. She echoed the same sort of sentiment. The LMDC, enormously proactive body that is, as we speak, planning all kinds of really, really interesting creative projects for downtown. So when you see that sort of thing come together, it's no different than in 1996 when Mayor Giuliani, or maybe it was slightly before that, 1994, 1995, promulgated the Downtown Revitalization Plan. And people came into downtown, smart guys like Tom Elganian, Donald Trump, Joe Moynihan, and came down because they began to see government coming behind these revitalization efforts. And I think it's more proactive today than it was back then.
I mean,
that's
I happen,
that's
I
an
happen to
amazing,
be
that
with,
augurs well.
I happen to be with Steve Siegel, who everyone knows from my audience. Steve is the chairman of global brokerage for CB Richard Ellis. And Steve told me that Hachette, who is a Midtown major publisher, is very close to signing a lease for 300,000 square feet at 55 Water Street, which is owned by the Alabama Retirement Plan.
Downtown.
Downtown. And I said, Steve,
It's not going to be signed.
it's not going to be signed.
From what I hear, there's a
No, he's, you know,
But
issue-
Michael,
an issue.
there is
no, no, but
nobody-
but I want to bring out a point. Besides the fact that I mean, HIP moved downtown, UFT moved downtown
There
last
is-
year. Steve said there's another reason, okay? Besides the nice amenities, the public and what the government, he said it's a $20 savings.
But you know
it's
what also?
$20, Ken.
Michael, you want to know what also? They also they were nervous about whether they want to go downtown or not. So they commissioned a study,
Yeah.
which Steve should tell you about.
He did.
To find out where their people are and what they feel about downtown. They found a big percentage of their population were women between 25 and 35 years old. And of that, 50% of that population already lived downtown. So they were moving in the area where all of their staff already lived. And it was overwhelmingly, but
I think
for all their
that's
staff. So-
I have a couple of landlords over here who own residential. And if you had to analyze your residential, would you say most of the people who live in the residential downtown work in downtown?
In our building's about 30%.
And in yours?
Yeah, other third, yes.
Because
that's
when
right.
It's 35% of the population that works downtown lives downtown.
Very
right now,
convenient.
Yeah.
which is really
Very
interesting.
But it's very convenient to live downtown, even if you don't work downtown, because the transportation downtown is you can get anywhere in Manhattan very
Absolutely.
quickly.
Especially to
And
the
it's always
boroughs.
been that way.
Especially to the
Eddie Gordon, may he rest in peace, great man. He said to me, I was having bacon and eggs with him, Michael, and he said to me about 5 years ago, New York City is in a 25-year uptrend renaissance. It's we really firmly believe that. And it really is. I mean, you look at the values in Midtown and what condominiums are selling for and what new sites are going for. Downtown is the last great real estate deal. And I'm not talking about simply for Kent Swig buying an office building well, or Joe Moynihan doing 180 Maiden Lane and buying it well, or Tom Al Gagnon getting Liberty Bond financing. I'm talking about the first real estate deal everybody gets to make. And what is that? It's either renting or buying an apartment. I can remember when I was practicing law, I dreamed of owning an apartment in this town. That was going to be the first real estate deal I was ever going to make, owning a condo or a co-op. And that is why 15 Broad is selling like hotcakes.
Right.
They
And-
all want to
and
be
to
there
relate
because
to
the
that,
spread
but-
is huge between that and Midtown and Midtown.
And once you get in
Wait
the
a second,
game,
is the
and you
spread
get
that much, Ken?
But once you get into
It's
the
huge.
game, but once you get in the game and you start to get that first asset, then you've got an opportunity to trade.
Which
and
was
move.
in the Wall
Right,
Street
it's-
Journal.
that's
I
your
mean,
first
today's
start
Wall
with
Street
housing.
First real estate deal.
Absolutely.
Today's
That's
Wall
the
Street
key.
Journal
And
basically
everybody
brought
wants to
that
be
up.
in that business, Ken.
Absolutely.
And that's
There's no
your
doubt.
opening, that's
Well,
the
let me
entry
tell you,
point.
If you're in Los Angeles, you talk about the entertainment business. If you're in New York, you talk about the real estate business. Where you live, where you work, where a restaurant's located, where this place is. It's real estate, and that's the
You
conversation.
know what, Mike?
about
You buy an
what drives
apartment
the city.
downtown, you own a piece of the rock. You really do. And that is a fact.
Why haven't hotels done more downtown?
Oh, I think they're going to be there. Not even a doubt in my mind. And the
But
hotel
you-
business.
But you bought the property at 55 Wall, which was a magnificent property, beautiful Regent Hotel. Why didn't it make it? Was it 9/11?
It was 9/11. Yes.
It's also not quite large enough to
No,
really be productive. It was
it was a class.
It was built.
No, I'm talking about the number of rooms.
It
to
was
really-
built. It was built magnificently. But in fairness to that, the hotel business, all over. I mean, all over Manhattan, and in fact, all over the country. There was no financing out there for it. I mean, if you ask Rob or Pat, I mean, there was just no financing for hotels out there.
Come
So
on, Pat did a hotel down.
very, but very, very, very difficult. And people really weren't coming downtown in the first 6 to 12 months.
But you know what? Let me
Michael,
You know
pose
what
it.
killed them was the price. They were paying $500 a night. The street was closed off after 9/11.
Right.
The customers couldn't get there. They were dying.
Tell you
That's why they
something-
went to the Holiday Inn
tell you
around
something-
the corner.
Yeah,
Michael,
well,
you
for
wanna know-
$100
you wanna
a
know-
night.
You want to know the hotel business? And you have an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean where you had Pearl Harbor. and you look at the population of people that go to Pearl Harbor and trek there because they take a look at the Arizona. The only other place this country was attacked was in the United States, was in New York City downtown. When they build the memorial that goes on down there, like the Vietnam Memorial, like Pearl Harbor, the population in the United States and worldwide that are going to come and visit, first of all, they visit New York anyway. But now you're going to have a population that's going to be wanting to be downtown. They will make their base downtown and go other places. The hotel business and the ancillary business, just because of the memorial in and of itself, there are going to be millions and millions and millions of people that come to visit all the time. That is going to be enormous.
Before the memorial is built, right now, in the hotel business which I'm involved in, if you ever looked at a hotel in downtown, Mike, you would definitely write off your two-day weekends by being empty. You only did business in 5 days.
Downtown, I've been
financing. I want you to know
it's a
today,
4-day business.
because of ground zero visitors from all the, it's totally opposite. You might get a chance to get a room in downtown during the week, business days, but it is impossible. Even for fancy prices, Tom, you're not going to get a room on Saturdays and Sundays,
you know what?
From all the visitors
when,
that come
when
to
the World
see
Trade
Ground
Center
Zero.
was going on with all the retail, those hotels down there had higher occupancy, actually, the ones closer there, on a weekend than they did during the week, because the shopping was so huge down there that a lot of people used to come in on a weekend and go shopping throughout all that, the retail, and then leave. The other hotels were hit a little bit, you know, on a weekend, but it's really interesting. It was, and that'll all come back. It's just the infrastructure's got to be put
But you
back a
know,
little.
well, I think we're all positive, but I think something we haven't brought up. When Shia bought 15 Broad, he paid $100 a foot. When the Lazarian brothers bought the Cadwallader space, they paid $190 a foot, and it doesn't configure as well. There are people, Shia is now in contract to buy 20 Pine Street at $200 a foot, or over $200 a foot. People are going into sites in Battery Park City and paying basically on effectively leasing at prices that one person said to me, do you think I can get $1,100 a foot for a building that's going to go up in 2007 in Battery Park City? I said, you know, now we're getting to a price point which Steve said, you know, when he was practicing as an attorney, you wanted to have that opportunity to buy the first property. Now we're talking about an item.
It's still cheap. For residential, it's still cheap if you're looking at the values.
Bruce Ratner is building the hospital site on Seaport, townhouses in the sky, they call the apartment, $30 million per unit.
No, that's not Bruce Ratner.
That's Chiami.
That's Chiami.
Yeah.
That's
Chiami,
the seaport.
that's the seaport.
Bruce Ratner is taking the site, the parking lot, right, which is a different item.
That's also a condominium, isn't it?
That's a combination.
Hospital.
It's 25,000 square feet is the for the hospital. Then there is rental, and then there is condominium.
Okay.
And that's what his is. You're talking about Frank Siami, who is planning to build, which, you know, maybe $30 million
per unit.
Per unit
Four-floor,
on the seaport, four-port.
Gorgeous.
I mean, they're
It's
magnificent.
It's a great project.
But you know
It's
what?
a phenomenal project.
Joseph Moynihan was asked this question on a prior show. A person by the name of Zale Feldman bought a property at 823
Park Avenue North.
and somebody sitting over here lent him the money for the acquisition and conversion, and we said, Mr. Feldman paid basically $1,200 a foot, effectively $1,200 a foot, not selling it at $1,200 a foot. And I said, $1,200 a foot, you have a cost of carry, you have other expenses, so his basic cost of development is going to be close to $1,800 or $2,000 a foot. Will he sell it? And Joseph Moynihan and everyone sitting around here, including your host, said there are 12 people who will buy a 4,000 square foot apartment on Park Avenue
for $3,000
for $3,000 a foot.
That's right.
But that's
When we did a project with Zeckendorf at 515, we found 37 people that spent that kind of money and
right.
more.
But you know what? We're talking about a different thing. What I'm saying to Tom is Battery Park City, you know, we're talking about a 600 unit apartment. We're talking about a major project.
Plus a green building.
Plus a green building, which has to be environmentally. So your expense, you know, it's more expensive than what you do in a conversion or what you even do at 2 Gold Street.
Plus a ground lease.
But relatively speaking, if you're looking, you're talking about the Pine Street, the 20 Pine Street that Shai is going to go do. At $210, $220 a foot, he's going to spend another 140, 150, whatever dollars a foot. If he's looking to sell, there's nothing in Manhattan selling less than $600, $700, $800 a foot.
And he makes money at that number.
So absolutely. So it's still cheap by standard for residential
home run grand
sales.
slam. Yeah.
The question is there a market for condominiums downtown? That answer has been answered.
But right now,
there is.
So
I mean,
an office
Shia,
building,
Shia for our audience, Mr. Bimelgreen bought this 15 Broad, which you were planning to buy across the street. He's building 500 apartments, 500, and he really didn't know. He had built number
But
of properties.
he does now.
No, he does. And he said to me
all do.
last Wednesday on the phone, he said to me, Mike, when I bought it, I had no idea if I could sell it for $400 a foot, $450. He said, but you know, I'm in for $110, another $150 to develop. I'm at $300. I'll sell it. In his first 30 days, he sold 65% of the units. And how much construction? Is there a model? I mean,
Almost a model.
so this is from plans. So, Steve, you got the Woolworth building. What are you going to sell it for?
I just wanted to make a macro comment, and that is this. New York has more traction points than any city in this world today. You go to the meatpacking district, it's vibrant. Then walk over to Soho to have a cup of coffee, it's vibrant. Then you go to Mulberry Street if you want a cannoli, and it's vibrant. Then you go downtown and it's vibrant.
Go to 137th Street.
Go to 137th Street. They're
It's the
opening
same
up, by the way, there
thing.
was an article the other day about new restaurants opening up in the Bronx. It has traction from Israeli investors. It has traction from South American investors. It has traction from young people who want to come in here.
Investors.
No
they've
different.
been investing
By the
for
way,
25
no,
years
no,
here.
I'm talking about people who feel it's a safe harbor. And why is it a safe harbor? Because it's a fabulous place to live. Because with the advent of the change in political policies here, when Giuliani got elected, it's no longer acceptable to have squeegee guys on the street. The welfare society as we know it is out. 2,000 murders a year, that's just unacceptable. Democrat or Republican being elected to office, it's unacceptable. Everybody wants to live here. I was at a dinner with Mayor Bloomberg. He echoed the same thing that Rob just said before. If you look at the Bloomberg site, everybody wants to work in New York. This is where they want to be. Doctors want to be here. They want their internships here. I belong to a club out in Long Island. Every one of my friends who has children who has graduated, they all want to sell their homes and they want to move into New York City.
Thank God.
It's just a fabulous
I know a good
place to
brokerage
be.
firm.
They want to jog in.
We happen
By the
to
way,
know a very good brokerage firm that
no,
operates around.
but this gets to downtown because they want to jog in Central Park, or now they want to be at the Hudson River Park. And where's the last great real estate deal to do? It's downtown. You can buy at a price point that is significantly below, and by the way, it's going to converge. There's no doubt about it. It converged in 2000, just prior to 9/11, with office rents and with residential rents, and it will converge, and that's the opportunity out there.
The interesting thing that people really forget is that I found an article that said in 1998, the downtown vacancy was like 6%, 1999. The plug-and-play industry, the dot-com industry, everything, nobody was thinking, you weren't converting at that time. We were renting to dot-coms. Billy Rudin, everybody wanted this.
Technology buildings.
Technology, everything was technology. Nobody wore a suit. I mean, it was a time that no one would be wearing a suit over there. And then the bubble burst. Mm-hmm. And that was before 9/11.
Yes.
That bubble burst
March of
in March of 2000.
That's good.
With the NASDAQ.
With
the NASDAQ.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
You're
What
talking about
happened to the
1990.
market? You know what? Let's try to get. We have Wachovia Securities.
Yes.
The market this year has basically been flat, right? It has.
Okay.
I mean, that's why a lot of people are investing in real estate, because real estate has been steadily increasing. The market goes up and down, but real estate has been increasing, even in New York. I mean, the prices here have been crazy. But as a lender, what do you see with regard to downtown? I mean, you lent him money. I mean, we know it was a good investment. We know you lent him money. He lent. You know, I have the good lenders over here.
It's interesting. It's two things. One is,
Less than.
first of all, what Steve was saying.
Less than you wanted.
Talk about the
I said
Israeli
less
money.
than.
You talk about all the money
Not
that's coming down. Just
less
look what the
than.
banks are doing. Commerce, Wachovia, B of A. I mean, we can't get enough branches, so that just leads to the whole New York City story. But you know, we're not as bullish as these guys. These guys have equity. We have debt. We want to get paid back at the end of the year. These guys make a lot more money.
We'd like to get
But
paid
here's an
back,
interesting question if you really want to stir it up a little bit. And
I always
I don't
do,
know
you
the
know?
answer what you're coming. How many of these guys have their offices downtown?
I have an office downtown.
I will answer how much time do I spend downtown?
No, we know how much time
I
you
do,
spend.
yeah.
But your office is at 399 Park Avenue.
Yes.
Your office is at 770 Lex.
Well,
Your
why-
office is at 500
But
Fifth
can I-
Avenue.
Michael?
Your office is
Michael?
at 42nd Street.
Michael, I have two offices also because of Brown Harris Stevens Halstead. We manage 268 buildings north of 57th Street. It's a lot
but
of.
you know
With
what?
the exception of the
but
law
you know what?
firms
But
in
you know what?
Goldman.
I think you're.
With the exception of
we
law
have
firms
an-
in
we have an
Goldman, it's a
office
low
down.
price alternative. If you can't afford, listen, you'd rather be on Park Avenue or Fifth Avenue than downtown. It's just, I mean, as an office tenant.
But you know what? It is. You know what?
Or a small user.
What is wrong with a $20 savings? What is wrong with getting REIT benefits, other benefits, savings? And hey, you know, I asked this question of on the same show that you were on with Bob Ivanhoe of Greenberg Trauer, and I said, why isn't your law firm? You know, you're talking about space. You need 100,000 square feet. You're in 200 Park Avenue. Why don't you go downtown? And basically, it was the convenience.
But can I tell-
We're partners. I think
Guess what?
it's
When
people
the
are changing.
transportation system gets put in place, you're going to see a different mentality about downtown. Before you went down there, you know, it was considered more difficult to get there. There wasn't a really wonderful transportation hub. Now, the best transportation hubs for the ferry system, the best transportation hubs for train systems, the best for subway systems are going to be downtown. That is going to revolutionize the way people go
You
and
know,
look about it.
I
And
have-
I think
you
you're
know,
going to
we-
see from the next 3 to 6 or 7 years, it's going to be a different thing. Plus, the views are better downtown. You're going to see major parks downtown. It's going to be different. Then, will it be a low-cost alternative to Midtown? Probably. But the discrepancy between values is
will
going
not
to
be
be
as-
nowhere near there.
But you
And then
know,
you're going to see
let's
people that
try
want
to.
to be
You
there.
know, unfortunately, certain people.
But
let's
people
not-
living there now, they're people who choose to live there not because of financial reasons, because they want to live down there.
I agree, it's
It's
magnificent.
energetic. It's more. It's.
What about Jersey City? You know, let's
where is that?
remember.
Where is that?
I think it's something.
That's easy.
There's water. There's in between. There's Jersey City and Hoboken. And a couple of months ago, I think it was Fisher Developers who built this building in Hoboken, and Archstone, one of the largest REITs, paid one of the highest prices, over $400,000 an apartment, for this building in Hoboken. People like Hoboken.
It's got a good
I mean,
view.
Residentially, yes, but commercially, I think we won the battle.
you won the battle.
I think so. I really think.
You
with
mean
the
Goldman,
incentives-
who built this
Gold-
building, now wants
the
to build
most
this?
magnificent building that they have, and they are trying to fill it up, but it's not as easy as they thought it's going to be. And I have news for you. Among any and all tenants that I have, from 10,000 square feet to 1 million square feet commercially, there's not one tenant, Michael, that as they're thinking of their renewal, they do not think of downtown as a choice. Every one of them have it on a drawing table. Every one of them are crunching the numbers. They talk to the city about incentives. They go, they
You
visit,
only
they go.
own
Every
4
one of
million
them.
square feet downtown.
But
You
he's, but he's,
understand?
but, he,
No,
but,
no,
he's,
but they all do.
but he's accurate though, Michael. And it's interesting. You know, every major tenant in Jersey City, every one, UBS, Goldman Sachs, they all tried to regurgitate their space.
Right.
They all took it, and then they all wanted to puke it back.
That's right.
Every single one of them. They did. And the fact is, the sublet market didn't allow them
Right.
to get to offload it. But people, now Hoboken is a different sort of venue.
Hoboken is a residential community.
That's
It's
right.
not-
Correct.
Because
Hoboken is
Hoboken,
not-
by the way,
makes
downtown ought to be, will hopefully one day get to
Eventually
what.
to be
And by the way, in
Hoboken.
Stone Street, if you go to Stone Street, and you'll ask Kent because he spends time on Stone Street. You go to Stone Street, you get a little bit of Hoboken on
Yes.
Stone Street.
Beautiful.
Outdoor cafes and bars, and
For
that's
our
what Hoboken
audience,
is
From
about.
morning
if
to
you
night.
get an
Right. To late at night,
opportunity,
it's unbelievable.
We
you
need
should
the
go down to
cafes.
Stone Street. You
We need-
But
really,
can I tell
you
you,
don't
Michael,
believe
what
it
makes,
is.
you're talking about suburbs, what makes strong suburbs, there's only one thing that makes them, and that is a very, very strong center core city. And that's, you know, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's New York City, whether it's Boston, the I-28 corridor in Boston, any of those places really did, because when the center core gets very, very expensive and it starts to fill up, then there's a natural outflow. But what's gone on through the United States, really, for the past 10 or 12, 15 years is a reurbanization of our cities. People want to be in center cities. They want the dynamic of the center cities. This isn't just a trend of Manhattan. The traction, New York, by far, has got more traction, I think, than most any other city around. But if you look throughout the United States, residential populations are moving back into cities. The pricing, even through 9/11, there was a blip between September and December in a lot of cities, and by January it picked back up, was selling all over the United States, and never really diminished, and tenants, because of the weakness in the marketplace, all started going back into center cities. So the suburbs really get strong when there's a really strong center city. Otherwise, people want to be back in there, and that's the trend that's been going on. And we just happen to be the
I have a
hot
question.
spot.
Besides 2 Gold Street, I mean, he owns 4 million square feet. Gamian has a nice amount of square feet downtown over the years. What are you planning to do besides 2 Gold after you rent in the property?
Well, we have some other land downtown. In fact, we're thinking about building a hotel now close to 2 Gold Street. And we believe in downtown. You know, we have a lot of property in Battery Park City, and we have some office buildings down there too. So I, as competitive as I think the market's going to be in the short term, I think in the long term, as the residential the more people come, the better it'll be, because I think it's really a quality of life issue for the office tenants. The quality of life downtown, when you compare it to Midtown, is much worse. Mostly the restaurants, the shopping, those things. And once we have a large enough residential community to support the retail, then the quality of life downtown will improve.
Where are we gonna? Where's the retail gonna come?
Oh, it's coming already.
Yeah.
Where?
We're getting calls left and right now. We never used to get calls.
You
Our
get better.
vacancy of retail downtown is minute. It's very,
Well, the
very
better
small.
quality too. You know, there's
Yes.
better restaurants,
Yes.
some bistros,
Yes.
some cafes.
You know what it is, Michael?
French restaurants.
If you take 1987 and you walked into Times Square as a New Yorker, not an outside Manhattan person, but a New Yorker, and you ask somebody's what their opinion of Times Square is, everybody says, you know, basically it's a seedy place, I'm not going. $1.5 billion, a lot of money back, was developed there privately. Most of it finished in 91, difficult market, and you asked New Yorkers what they thought of it, and they said, it's a seedy place, I'll never go. Then it started to get populated with more residential, hotels, and office people. And you asked New Yorkers what they thought in 93. What do you think of it? It's a seedy place. Lion King opened up. All the parents brought their children down there. Everybody looked around. They said, oh my God, what an unbelievable place. It had happened. Sometimes because we become a little bit myopic, we don't think and you know, what kind of place that we're really seeing. Downtown is very similar. The trend has happened. The 30,000 people have moved there already. The office tenancy is going on down there. The transportation hub, the government subsidies, the government help, the leadership, it's there. New Yorkers
What
are
happens
going
when
to awaken in a couple of years and find a
Let's
brand
get
new
to
city
the government
for themselves.
subsidies, please.
And that's
the Liberty Bond for residential.
it's the money spent, the $20 billion
No.
that's being
Fine.
spent down there.
What's going to happen to other development? Do you see more office buildings, more from what I'm hearing now, I think everyone is agreeing there's going to be much more residential. But part of what you need for residential is you need more schools. I mean, there is a new Claremont is opening up next year in one of the buildings.
But the community
on
board is
Broad.
very, very focused now
So is the city.
on bringing in elementary schools. In fact, Shelley Silver discussed it with Steve Spinola, and it was brought to the attention of everybody at the executive committee of the real estate board, and people are out there very proactively looking to bring schools in. You have a really, I tell you really have a committed community down there. It's really an amazing thing. I mean, you know, when you have smart, proactive, development-like people, government officials, a great community board, and they all come together, then on top of that, you've got Carl Weisbrod, who's one of the smartest guys I've ever met in this life, who is the, you know, such a fabulous cheerleader for down there, and he just manages to be the glue. I mean, he just pulls everybody together.
Question.
I don't think it can be defeated.
No. Unfortunately, you know, something that's happening downtown. Right now, downtown is not able to serve, to pay the bills for the downtown hospital. They have been a financial nightmare. And it has been announced that NYU is going to leave their affiliation with downtown. They've told it to the state. But you need health care also. I mean, they can't afford to lose the hospital downtown.
They'll solve that. You know what? They solved North
General.
North General. They solved North General. They'll
That's not a
solve
downtown
that too.
problem. That's a
and
medical
an answer,
problem.
by the
I mean,
way,
That's a downtown problem.
Right.
It's
And
a
an answer-
downtown
It's a
problem,
downtown
but it's
problem
a
because the
result-
Chinese weren't utilizing
But it's
it.
also
right?
a result of the fact that the medical industry has gone through an unbelievable turmoil.
But there's only one hospital downtown.
That's
Yeah,
the,
you know,
that's a
let's-
pro, that's
but
a
in
problem
answer,
for downtown.
in answer
but
to
the
your
issue is
question
a
about
medical
Liberty
issue.
bonds, you know, when and I think Tom would tell you this. I certainly don't want to speak for him, but when he first went into the ground on 2 Gold, you know, the way the market looked then, Liberty bonds were probably fundamental to his project. He really, you know, maybe he projected 40, but you know, he's a conservative guy. I know Tom pretty good, and he probably went home and said, "Please, you know, I hope I get 40."
I don't.
But the fact of the matter is,
I mean, I'm gonna.
the fact of the matter is, the
I
average
don't
rent.
think you really thought you'd get 40.
And you're right.
Right.
It's now it's
Now
now
it's
an
different,
extra.
and you know what?
You're right.
I'm conventionally financing 10 Hanover because I didn't want to be locked into Liberty bonds, and the reason I don't want to be locked into Liberty bonds is because I may want to unwind them one day and convert the building to condominium. And I think Tom would tell you that today he would be just as inclined to fund his project conventionally, and on top of that, if you don't want to go, if Liberty bonds were exhausted, there was always the opportunity to go 80-20 downtown if you wanted to go that
But
route.
let's, you know, let's get to the subject which hasn't been brought up tonight. Affordable housing downtown. There really isn't affordable housing, is there?
Oh, in the Liberty Bond
No,
program,
no.
you have to
Yeah,
do
but
something.
it's,
Well, I mean, do we have affordable? I mean, on
but
the
it
80-20 in your building on 80-20, or your 80-20 on Chelsea Central. I mean, 20% of those units are for people earning 60%
Yeah, well,
of the
there's a lot of
average.
that in Battery Park City, too. A lot of those buildings are 80-20s.
Right, but I'm
In fact, most
talking
of them
about
are.
now.
Yeah.
Today, there
But
really
Michael,
isn't.
Tom's building and my building, which was the city Liberty Bond,
The 3%.
the 3%, they took the money and they built beautiful buildings who I visited outside on
But
the
in-
116 and
Right.
118th Street. And you know, the medium income, just because of the surrounding of downtown Manhattan, the medium income, I think they would rather live in the uptown area than they really would downtown area because they feel at home out there, and it has helped that community up there. You're talking about millions of dollars. Millions
Plus,
of
much
dollars.
more efficient to
Yeah.
build up there than a
downtown
luxury
Manhattan.
product, you know?
It's called planking. It's an easy.
Yeah, much easier.
Yeah.
Much-
Yeah,
much-
build on
much-
a,
so you're-
much
you're-
easier.
it's much
Much
more
easier.
expensive
That's right.
to put them in one of our buildings.
That's right. And you know, to continue what Stephen said, there are now that the Liberty Bond has brought in some 4,000 something apartments to the table, and the 30,000 population is down there. It gives all the developers the shot in the arm to get going without the Liberty Bond. We are breaking ground up without Liberty Bond, and as Steve is building.
Is it a
And
Manchurian building without he's?
Yeah, I don't think he got it. I think he's
He-
building
no,
without
no,
it.
Where is it?
Williams Street, 15 Williams.
He just
50
broke
Williams.
ground 10 days ago or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, the other thing that people don't talk about with downtown is you go take an aerial view of downtown. It converges
Yes.
at its narrowest point by the two rivers. You're living on the east side of downtown or the west side of downtown, you can just walk and go
That's
right
right.
to the rivers.
The views are the best. I
Right.
mean, it's got.
And when they
I mean,
figure out, when they begin that pier redevelopment over there, and they're going to do it, I mean, no different than than the Hudson River Trust is doing
And
all
one
the
day,
piers.
maybe the new owner of Rouse of the Seaport will redevelop the Seaport.
But those piers,
and maybe make it have tenants that can
pier
work.
redevelopment,
right.
it's going to be amazing. I mean, it's really, I think structurally, it's going to be pretty fabulous down there. We were discussing before. I talked to Louise Sunshine. I mean, I would say that Louise is, you know, if she's doing 15 Broad, and she is as good a salesperson, I think, as it gets out there. And Louise said to me the other day, she is more bullish on downtown than any other sector in the city of New York. I mean, that's how fervently she believes in it.
I think I've brought together 6 people plus a host who's probably one of the most bullish advocate of downtown. As opposed
But it's
to
because of the fundamentals. They're
And
there.
by the way,
Well, you know what?
And Michael, I'm thinking about moving my office there.
Okay, as many of you know, I'm the columnist for the New York Sun. I write the real estate column, and then there's a columnist for the New York Times, Badgie, who really knocks downtown. He knocks downtown each and every day. He said, you know, Citibank is moving out, everybody's moving out.
There are problems
But
anywhere.
I don't think there's problems, but I think
there's a movement going on that's really very difficult to stop. And as we said, two of the things is you've got a population that's growing and growing and growing, and it's not diminishing; it's growing. And you've got an infrastructure that is second to none anywhere that's being put in. You can't help when those two things occur, occur
time
together.
is getting short.
You can't help but have a powerful place.
Michael, there is not one
Joseph?
building commercially that I have that I don't have a tenant that's not thinking of growing in the same building.
I agree.
Yes.
I would like to thank all of
for us.
you. I would like to thank all of you who are all bullish, including your host, for joining me at the first show of the new season on a very important topic, the state of Lower Manhattan. I'd like to thank Ken Swig of Swig Burris Equities, Joseph Moynihan of the Moynihan Group, Patrick Crandall of Fremont Investment and Loan, Tom Alganian of Rock Rose Development, the man who is from North Carolina but really from South Jersey, Rob Verone of Wachovia Securities, and Steve Witkoff of the Witkoff Organization for all being here. Next month, we're going to leave downtown because we're bringing in some people from Chicago, from Los Angeles. We're bringing in some major developers and owners who love New York, who have made big investments, and we're going to be talking about why other people from all around the country want to own New York. So we'll see you next month. Thank you very much.
Funding for the Stoller Report is made possible by a grant from the First American Title Insurance Company of New York. The First American Corporation is the nation's leading diversified provider of business information products and services that impact the major events of people's lives.